Hello and welcome to Training Tuesday, where we go through weekly tips and tricks to make your career just a little bit more awesome. This week we are talking about momentum because it is officially March, and let's be real, January feels a far way away, and a lot of the goals you may have set for yourself this January might feel like, oh yeah, I forgot about that thing that I was gonna do. So if this is coming up for any of you, totally normal. It often happens around this time of year. You know, at the beginning of February, you start to see people drop off and your gym all of a sudden is a little less crowded. By the end of February, that ship has sailed, right? So if you feel like you're losing steam for some of the ambitious things you wanted to do this year, whether that is running your first marathon, starting your side hustle, doing any sort of other change in your career, whatever's coming up for you, and you feel like you're losing steam, I see you. I'm gonna talk you through 4 questions to help you identify why you might be losing steam and help you to recapture it. Because truth is, you set those goals for a reason. So let's get into it. If you feel like you're losing momentum, the 4 questions I want you to ask yourself is, 1, the first question, am I still on board with this, right? Because so often, this is a big thing, is people get caught up at the beginning of the year and all of these exciting things that they think they want to do, and then they realize over time that it's not really a priority for them. It's not something that's important to them, and that's okay. So I want you to first and foremost ask yourself, is this still a priority to me? And it's okay if it's not, but if so, why? Remind yourself of the why behind this. How are you feeling? What made you feel like you needed to make this change? How do you know it's so important to you? So spend some time asking yourself, grab a piece of paper for all of these questions. Is this still a priority to me? And if so, why? Because it's going to be so incredibly helpful to help you get that little extra boost. The second question I want you to ask yourself is, do I know the process to be taking? Because so often people are missing process. I talk about that a lot here. And so it's kind of like they're just running their head into a brick wall, and it's not going to be very helpful to get them from point A to point B. So do I know the process I need to be taking? If not, if you're feeling overwhelmed and you don't know where to start, it's normal, but make sure you're getting process in place. So read a book, work with a coach, do something to learn what steps need to be taken so that you can start to take them, of course. The third question I want you to ask yourself is, am I being consistent and do I have accountability in place? Because consistency is one of those things that I think gets overshadowed by the much more fun and flashy cousins of like momentum and adrenaline and excitement. Consistency at the end of the day is the thing that moves businesses forward, right? So much of why I think my business has been a success these last 2.5 years has been because I've been incredibly consistent. You guys know to expect these videos from me every single Tuesday. And if I'm gonna be out of town, I will record it before. And so consistency is so big. Ask yourself, have I really truly been consistent? And only you can answer that at the end of the night. And if not, right, do I have accountability in place? I mean, you probably need accountability if you have been consistent too, but accountability is a great way if you feel like it's hard to start taking the actions to have some sort of external accountabilities. That's why my business exists, but that's also why I love doing group programs, because then not only are my clients accountable to me for doing their homework, but they're accountable to each other for saying, oh yep, I did the work this week. So make sure you have some sort of accountabilities in place, have a group that's supporting you through this, have someone in your corner making sure that you can be consistent, because inconsistency, not so good. And then the 4th question I want you to ask yourself, if you feel like you're losing steam or you're not necessarily moving forward in the goals that you set for yourself the way that you wanted, is fear or the idea of the safe problem coming up? So fear being feeling like it has to be perfect, all that head trash that we often talk about, of what's coming up for you, right? All of those, oh my gosh, I want to do this, but I'm so incredibly scared to start. Ask if that's coming up for you. And if so, that's okay, but make sure you're attaching yourself to something outside of yourself to keep you moving through and past fear. And when I mentioned the safe problem, I've talked about it here before. I will talk about it in the future here, I'm sure more in depth. But the safe problem is this idea of setting some sort of false timeline for yourself in the future because it feels comfortable saying, I can work on that in 6 months, or once I get this additional accreditation, then I can start my business. And so often what happens is it's this false timeline that makes us feel more comfortable than just admitting I'm really scared to start now. right? So those are the 4 questions I want you to ask yourself. Am I still on board with this? Is this still a priority? And if so, why? Do I know the steps and process to make this happen? Have I been consistent? And do I have accountability in place? And are fears coming up or the idea of the safe problem? So ask yourself those 4 questions. Remember, progress over perfection. You don't have to have it perfect the first time, but just do your best to get stuff out there. Ask yourself those 4 questions. Let me know in the comments which one resonates most with you, because I am curious to hear, and start there. But in the meantime, happy working.